Hey, Foot Clan, the ultimate draft kit for 2019 is back and better than ever. You can pre-order it right now at the lowest possible price. And this year we're bringing to you everything that you loved from the last ultimate draft kit, which means premium position rankings, top 200, player profile videos, sleepers, breakouts, busts, and so much more. But we're also bringing you custom scoring, a custom ultimate draft kit app, and much more. And if you order before March 1st, you can be entered to win 2 customized jerseys from fantasychamps.com, a studio tour, and a coveted listener league spot. Plus, we'll give you $10 to shopballers.com. You can pre-order the 2019 Ultimate Draft Kit right now at ultimatedraftkit.com.
This is Melvin Gordon from the Los Angeles Chargers, and you listening to the Fantasy Footballers podcast.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast, coming to you from pristineauction.com studios with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Welcome in. It's another wonderful day, Mike.
In the neighborhood.
You got the hat on.
You've noticed.
Yeah.
You've noticed, huh?
Hat week is back.
This is the thrilling conclusion.
Jason is here.
No hats, no hair to cover.
Yeah.
Some people say need hats because I've got no hair.
You
And I
could
need to
do
cover.
like a hat month.
Yeah. I
Well,
could.
here's the thing our listeners may or may not know about Jason. The hair, yes, everyone knows that systems are failing. Jason in a hat is truly a sight to behold. I don't know how certain people just aren't hat people.
Right. Oh,
Yeah.
no, I get it.
But Jason,
He's not a hat person.
and this is not meant to be an insult because it's just you put a hat on him,
It's just a fact.
you look like a strange
Yes.
person.
And it doesn't matter the type of hat. It's just all hats. Give me that crisp bill.
Fitted.
You know what he is? He's a
Snapbacks.
He's a fedora guy.
Oh no!
I have not yet tried
Oh.
the fedora.
Oh, that's probably it. That's what you've been missing.
Maybe
Please.
a bowler.
We did a top hat. You're a top hat kind of guy. We did a little analysis on our Super Bowl party
Oh,
because I don't remember who had the hat on, but we realized that Mike, his head is so large
it's mine.
that you on the hats that aren't fitted, you're on like the last clip.
Not
Yeah,
the
you're-
last. I got.
You're close.
I think I got 4 dots.
And I'm like,
4 dots to my that I can level up to.
I'm
Okay.
the other side. I'm like, you got to turn that thing into a baby hat.
Yeah, you got to pull it as tight as possible. So
Yeah.
you have a small head. Maybe that has something to do with it.
Yeah.
Very important stuff here on the Fantasy Footballers
Science!
Podcast for Thursday, February 7th. And this show is going to be hot fire. It's going to be great. We have the top 10 shocking stats from last year. Not only are we revealing these on the show today, courtesy of a number of people bringing some really good research to the table, including the Borgogan, Kyle, our editor-in-chief, found these stats, and we're going to talk through the implications of these stats from this past year on your fantasy team and the way that fantasy football is trending and the way that gameplay on the field is trending and what it means for your fantasy drafts coming up in 2019. So a reminder, as always, follow us on Twitter at the FFBallers, on Instagram, instagram.com/fantasyfootballers. You okay there, Jay?
I am doing great.
Didn't want to duck
Doing
away
well.
from the mic
No,
on that little
that was right in
right
there.
into the mic.
Button not working?
No.
All right.
No.
Oh, did you think you had pushed the mute button?
Yes, I have this.
Try it out. Yeah, no, that's definitely working.
Yeah,
now.
it worked that time.
Okay. So you win some, you lose some.
It did not look like you pushed it.
You guys hear that?
I apologize to the Foot Clan and to my family.
It's great because he didn't realize anything had happened. Even
Not
though,
really.
even though
you
he's
can
got,
hear it,
he's got headphones on. He could totally hear
I had
the cough. Like,
well, I'm
that didn't work.
coughing, so of course I would hear it. But yeah, come to think of it, it was rather loud. Okay.
Don't forget, you can also find us on Apple Podcasts, subscribe, review over there, and ad-free on Stitcher Premium. We do have a giveaway going on the website, footclangiveaway.com, a signed Todd Gurley jersey you can enter for free. Brought to you by Pristine Auction over there at footclangiveaway.com. And without further ado, let's get into the news.
News and notes from around the league, presented by Sleeper.
We'll jump through the news and then see how much time we got left. I have a quick question idea for us too. But Nick Foles, Mike, you talked about this 2 days ago.
Yep.
He bought out his $20 million option for $2 million. Wouldn't you love to be in the position in life where you're like, I'm going to pay you $2 million to not pay me $20 million?
Because he's going to get paid a whole lot more than $20 million. He is now a free agent. He'll be now the Eagles could still –
This is where it's interesting.
The Eagles could still franchise tag him. I don't believe they will. None of the indications that I've seen indicate that they will. So I expect Nick Foles to just be on the market and pretty much the best quarterback available in free agency.
Yeah, you're probably going to have Ryan Tannehill out there in free agency. You're going to have Joe Flacco available.
You'll have to trade for Flacco.
Sure. But wouldn't that be a bargain to do so? Depending on what you pay in terms of your yearly impact is going to be higher on a guy like Nick Foles than Joe Flacco?
Yeah, but it depends on how much you like winning.
Well, I was going to say, who would you rather have, Nick Foles or Joe Flacco?
Nick Foles.
I would rather have Joe Flacco.
Yeah, I would much rather have Nick Foles, but I would much rather have neither.
You'd go with no quarterback?
I would go with any – I mean, I don't think either of them are the answers to a franchise at this point in their careers.
All right, Rams coach Sean McVay said Todd Gurley does not require offseason surgery.
I know this was getting a lot of play because this was, a news blurb. Good news, Todd Gurley doesn't need offseason surgery for the injury that they insisted he doesn't have. Like, how are they when they're talking about him not having surgery?
Well,
how is that important when you've been insisting for a month that he's not hurt?
That is kind of interesting, right? It's like answering the question that shouldn't exist.
Exactly.
They cannot. I mean,
quite a predicament.
I know a lot of people are saying, "Oh, it's going to come out that he was injured. He's dealing with stuff." And the whole time I'm thinking they literally can't. Even if he is, they can't because he wasn't on the injury report for several weeks. So if it comes out that he was injured, they'll be in trouble for that.
But based on this news, our news section is now going to be 2-3 hours long because I'm going to start like this: Saquon Barkley not having surgery.
Oh, that's great news
for any injuries he has or has not sustained.
Andrew Luck's throwing shoulder is not re-injured either.
Yes.
There was a lot of worry.
Excellent.
Maybe he would re-injure that this season. Has not happened.
That's good to hear.
Greg Olsen, this was news today, confirms that he wants to play in 2019 because playing through foot injury is his jam.
Also, I believe that Jason Witten has sabotaged Greg Olsen's chance to get into the booth immediately.
No, I mean, Olsen should be back. So he'll be relevant if he's on the field. He always is.
Yes.
But if he's not on the field, less relevant. Falcons have released kicker Matt Bryant. 43-year-old Matt Bryant dealt with injuries over the back half of the year, moving another direction.
This one's a little wild to me. I understand the injuries, but when he's on the field, Matt Bryant is still one of the best kickers in the league. And as we have seen plenty of times this season, if you don't invest in your kicker position at the NFL, we're not talking about fantasy. We're talking about having an actual good kicker on your team. That bites you in the butt more often than not.
Fair enough. And then I don't know how much you want to talk about this, but you might as well mention it.
Yeah.
Antonio Brown's lawyer is refuting that his client was involved in a domestic dispute last month. This was a TMZ Sports report that he was involved in a domestic dispute and not arrested. Okay, you don't. Yeah. I mean, we know nothing.
Yeah, there's no information.
We're passing that on.
Yeah.
And then Ian Rappaport talking about the Raiders situation. Mike, do you want to sum up what's going on in Oakland, San Francisco, California?
Oakland is looking for a place to play while they wait for the stadium in Vegas to be built. It was being reported that the deal was done. They were going to go play in the San Francisco Giants stadium. The San Francisco mayor is not having any of that business. You're not bringing your football franchise down into 49er territory. So
Not even if they wear 49er jerseys while they do it?
Oh, they don't want
that would
that.
be even worse.
Yeah. Don't you diminish our product.
So we'll see. We'll see where Oakland gets to play. This is a mess.
Yeah. That
Might just take the year off. Just like pass. 2019, we'll pass.
That was today's news and notes here on the show. If you hate ads on your fantasy app, you know what? Sleeper does too. You can download the best free fantasy app on iOS and Android right now. Get Sleeper. Here was the quick question that I so unkindly ignored at the top of the show. Who's the player that you are targeting in trades in Dynasty leagues this offseason, and why? Is there a name out there right now that you want our listeners to pay attention to? Somebody maybe below the radar that could have higher value later on this offseason.
Yeah, I like targeting in this time of year really, really cheap free options that their situations could improve. To me, I really like John Brown. He's only 28 years old. He had a great season. If you remember, it's hard to remember because the Lamar Jackson Ravens barely used wide receivers,
Right.
Certainly not enough for anyone to be relevant for fantasy. But John Brown was great. The beginning of the year, he was scoring. He was putting up big yardage. He was playing well, having great separation. He is now a free agent. So let me tell you some of the best free agents in this year's pool. Randall Cobb.
Yeah.
And Dante Moncrief and
Are we gonna
Jermaine
use-
Kearse, Adam Humphries. He's
Oh,
free agent.
all right.
Tyrell Williams.
Tyrell Williams. I mean, but my point is there's not like 3 or 4 big name tier 1 wide receivers where there's teams every year that need to spend and bring in another guy. John Brown will get paid. He will go somewhere to be the number 2 for that team at least, and he's going to cost you absolutely nothing. No dynasty owner right now is thinking like, oh, I got to hold on to John Brown.
That's probably true because I think there are, there's the question marks of where he lands and what quarterback he has and whether he'll have a big role.
Right.
It worked, this was the same situation for John Brown last year, and it worked out where he found some place that he could become one of the go-to guys for Joe Flacco. I'm going to throw Robbie Anderson and Quincy Enunwa's name out there, both of them. Sam Darnold coming into year 2, Adam Gase. Ryan Tannehill had his best years under Adam Gase. Obviously, you had volume in the kind of probably the Enunwa would be most similar to what Jarvis Landry did in the offense. And so I would just say keep your eyes on those 2 players. Anderson, late in the season, came on, had a streak of 4+ games of being a number 1 wideout. So he may be more difficult to acquire. But Quincy Enunwa, having been hurt halfway through the year, he's an interesting name. They re-signed him to an extension. So Quincy Enunwa would be a potential John Brown-like snag.
Yeah, you expect that offense to be better next year with year 2 under Darnold. I like it.
Yeah, generally, if I'm looking to acquire a player, I want them to be in a little bit more of a solidified situation. So, like Quincy, where I believe in Sam Darnold, I believe in him long term, and I think I can get a cheap weapon. And the fact that Quincy just signed his new deal, has a young quarterback, I think that's a very interesting guy to go after. The name I'm going to throw out is also cheap, so might be a little bit gross when you hear the name, but stay with me. Zay Jones. Now, having everything I just said about how I want to have a stable quarterback, you know that Josh Allen's at least there for a few years. We'll see if he can become the guy that Buffalo thinks that he can become. But Zay Jones, over the final 5 games of the season, he was averaging 8.4 targets a game. He scored 5 touchdowns in that time. I mean, he was emerging as the go-to guy. I mean, Robert Foster was having those big, exciting plays, but Josh Allen is going to need someone who is reliable. And Zay Jones, young, they spent draft capital to get him. If you recall, Zay Jones was a second-round pick. He had like that weird off-season thing. So I believe moving forward, Zay Jones is going to be a very interesting player. For redraft, he's going to be a interesting late-round flyer. And right now, you can get him for probably pretty cheap.
Oh, certainly. I mean, people don't believe in Zay Jones because he had such historically bad, catch
Right.
percentage so far while he's been in the league. But if you remember his college production, his athletic profile, the draft capital spent, he's coming into year 3. I actually like Zay Jones as a target here.
There's somebody that's going to catch the ball there. And I think Isaiah
Sure.
McKenzie's under contract for one more season at a cheap price. He's somebody that I saw hit waiver wires in Dynasty leagues. So he could be a free ad versus a trade target as well. Those are some good names. We ready to jump in?
Shock some people?
Yeah, let's do it.
How'd you do that? It's actually, I'm not even mad. That's amazing.
That's pretty good. I didn't remember what that one was.
There you have it.
All right, 10 shocking stats from 2018 and some questions for you gentlemen as it pertains to them. All right, number 1, titled QB Boom Boomers. All right.
All right.
In 2017, we saw only so this is 2 years ago, 17 total quarterback performances of 30-plus fantasy points. And this is in 4-point leagues from weeks 1 through 16. In 2018, last year, we got that total in 4 weeks and saw 33 weeks of 30-plus fantasy points, nearly double the year prior. And so we saw some boom-boom games from the quarterback position. Is this the new normal? Is this what you expect with the, the return of Andrew Luck and the ascendant MVP talent of Pat Mahomes? Or do you expect it to be somewhere more in between the 2017 and 2018 numbers?
I would expect it to be in between, but if it's closer to any of them, it's the one we just got. 2017, this is why we were talking about last offseason of it was this weird year for not only for quarterback scoring, but for wide receiver scoring. I mean, there's a correlation. If wide receiver scoring is down, generally the quarterback scoring is going to be down as well. In this NFL where the rules are for the offense, it was so shocking to see what happened in 2017. So I think this was a swing a little bit too far, but you're right, Andy. Patrick Mahomes himself is Mahomes is going to skew this number just by himself.
I think it'll stay. I think we'll stay at this level. You have a transformative time in head coaching hires, the attention to the Sean McVay success,
right.
the transition to some of these kind of manufactured offenses that have a lot of moving parts and are bending the offensive direction. So I think we're going to end up with 30 plus performances.
Yeah,
next
we're getting
year.
more and more college systems coming into the NFL, which you go back, I mean, even 10 years ago, aside from Chip Kelly, but the thought of the NFL actually embracing what they're doing in college, they had tilted their noses up at the possibility of the college system working in the NFL.
We don't do what those losers do. And the thing is, if you look over a long period of time, the trajectory for scoring in the NFL continues to rise, but it's a jagged, it's not just a straight angle because defenses catch up. And I'm less optimistic that it'll just repeat what happened this year because I don't think Pat Mahomes throws another 50 touchdowns next year. I think some of these things come back to earth, but 2 years ago was more the outlier than last year. I do agree with that.
All right, the number 2. Surprising, shocking stat.
His name's funny.
RBs Matter?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. The Chicago Bears and the Los Angeles Chargers both had 2 running backs finish in the top 24, right? Meanwhile, 6 teams didn't even have 1 running back finish in the top 30, including the Jets, the Lions, the Raiders, the Bills, the Eagles, and the Ravens. Of those teams that did not have a running back in the top 30 that I just named,
Ooh.
who are you most interested in for 2019? So you had the Chargers, right?
Yep.
They had 2. The Bears had 2. But
I think this is if you look at the list of the teams that
it's easy.
It's easy for you?
Of the teams that didn't have a back in the top 30, who are you most interested in?
Well, I know mine.
Yeah, it's very easy.
Okay.
Because it's Kerryon Johnson.
You darn right
It's the Detroit Lions. But the other names on the list, I just wanted to get that out of the way. That I feel like that's the easy answer. But meanwhile, the Eagles and the Ravens, they're both extremely interesting. But
Those are the two that jump out to me as offenses that I'd want the running back piece for, assuming it's established.
that's the problem.
Outside of a giant committee.
For both of them.
Right.
I don't
Huge
know.
committees.
I don't know if we'll see an established 1A guy for either of those teams.
Neither team seems to desire that. They want, the secondary guys involved. They want a Darren Sproles. They want a Buck Allen. They want a Kenneth Dixon behind a bruising back. But if you look at all these teams, yes, none of them finished with the top 30, but every single one was due to injury. You lost J.J., you lost Kerryon Johnson, you lost LaShawn McCoy at times. And so next year, which team am I interested in? It's probably going to be, obviously Kerryon, I love him, but I'm going to throw the Jets out there because they're going to make a splash of free agency.
You
I don't
believe
know
so?
Well, I think they're one of the front runners for Lev Bell. So if Lev Bell goes there, I'll be interested.
All right, number 3. This one's titled Big Wide Receiver Honchos Goin Hundo. Wow, that's a
What?
I just left these titles in here.
I like it because it's exactly what they did. They gone hundo.
Here's the stat, and you, Mike, you can decide after you hear the stat.
All right.
In 2017, 2 years ago, there were 114 single-week wide receiver performances of 100-plus.
We call those a hundo.
Yards. Those are a hundo. 114 hundos.
That's going Hundo, Jay.
Yeah.
In 2018, last season, there were 172.
Oh, we're going.
That's 3 additional 100-yard wide receiver games per week.
Where are you going?
Hundo.
I'm going Hundo.
So you had, in 2017, only 3 wideouts that had 5 or more games of 100-plus receiving yards. That was Keenan Allen, Antonio Brown, and DeAndre Hopkins. Last year, you had 11 wide receivers, not 3, but 11 with 5 or more 100-yard games. Julio, Thielen, Evans, Smith-Schuster, Hopkins, Hill, Adams, Beckham, Brown, Cooks, and T.Y. Hilton.
And it's hard, I think, to take, the question is, okay, we had 11. Let's say it's not going to be 11. Let's say next year there's going to be 7 guys. Who out of that list that you just read would not repeat? Because when I look at the list of Julio, Thielen, Mike Evans, Juju,
it's hard to count anybody out.
It really, really is. You could argue Juju Smith-Schuster if Antonio Brown is, but he has huge monster games. The 100 mark is something that I think he'll do often.
If I had to pick, which we do, this is the question. Out of those 11 names, let's say we each try to pick 2 names
that will not
that
repeat.
won't do it. And for me, it would be just playing the odds. Brandon Cooks, and I'm going to throw Mike Evans because I think Mike Evans can have a huge impact on the field without 100-yard games. But, yeah, those are the names I'd throw out there. I think I guess you guys could go Hilton, but, Hilton is just a magnet for 100-yard games.
I would go Adam Thielen and Brandon Cooks.
Okay.
Yeah, Thielen, Hilton, and Cooks are the 3 guys that I think would have the most difficult time repeating.
For what it's worth, though, Thielen had 9 of them.
Right.
Yeah,
so he's not in that.
Well, when he started,
Cooks only had 5.
When he started the year, every single game was a 100-yard performance. He broke the NFL record for that. So obviously, great year. Not taking anything away from him there, but
yeah, it was 8 straight to start the season. So if you do the math, that means the second half of the season he only had 1.
Yeah.
So that's why I lean Adam Thielen with the system change.
That's a good point. Hilton had 5 and he missed some time and wasn't healthy. So that's I think he's as long as Andrew Luck is there.
Yeah, he's
going to be in good
absolute yardage master. Before we move on to the next shocking stack, want to thank Stat. Did I say Stack?
You said shocking stack and then you said thanked.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which is not a word.
Yet.
Start over.
Before we move to next shocking stat, want to thank today's sponsor, Handy. Handy is the easy and convenient way to book home cleanings. You compare profiles, you read real customer reviews, then you book on your schedule right from the app or the website. All of Handy's services are backed by the Handy Happiness Guarantee, and all pros on Handy are background checked. Learn more at handy.com. Plus, with Handy's clear upfront pricing, what you see is what you pay, and you can pay securely on the app. No need to worry about cash or checks. I have had the Handy app experience. Incredibly easy. Had someone out to clean the house in two shakes of the broomstick.
As they say.
That's what my grandpappy used to say.
Oh, yeah, I remember
I'm
him.
pretty sure. I think he did. Anyways, to get your first 3-hour cleaning for just $39. When you sign up for a plan, visit handy.com/footballers. Use the promo code footballers during checkout. That's handy.com/footballers. Use the promo code footballers during checkout. You're going to get your first 3-hour cleaning for $39 once you sign up for a plan. Recurring charge terms and conditions apply. Visit handy.com to learn more.
All right, number 4 on the shocking stat list. TEs have tight ends.
I don't like it.
I don't need. Can I get a verdict?
Yeah,
from the judge.
Are we keeping that title?
Can we?
Well, it's out there now. So
So you're. But is it acceptable? Is it?
Can
would
we
you have-
repeal?
Yeah,
Can
you
we-
can scratch things from the record, Judge. Do
okay,
you not know that?
Let's do it.
All right.
He's in on it. He didn't even make a ruling.
Because he wrote it.
Did you write this, Brooks?
Nah, that's the
Oh, that's
Rogan.
Kyle. Okay. We saw a major resurgence in top-end tight end scoring, which could have been the name of the shocking stat. In terms of PPR scoring for tight ends, there were 3 tight ends who registered top 15 all-time seasons. So you had 3 all-time seasons at the tight end position. Travis Kelce, 4th best ever. Zach Ertz, 6th best ever. George Kittle was 14th best ever. We hadn't seen a tight end with a top 30 all-time in the last 2 years. So can any of these guys, and we just had the tight end truth show on Tuesday.
Right.
Can Kelce, Ertz, or Kittle, can any of those big 3 tight ends improve on this year's otherworldly numbers? Because, and I brought this up on the last show, this is not the same NFL. It can be a little bit of a distortion to throw the best all-time out there for certain players and certain stats. Because I think literally last year, Kelce broke the receiving yards record, and then Kittle broke it in the same weekend.
Yep. Like an
So-
hour later.
That being said, can you improve on it? That's a different ask.
Improve? It'd be a tough ask for Travis Kelce to improve. But yeah, considering he didn't play a week. I mean, he took the final week off. So theoretically, yes, he can improve. If anyone is going to improve, though, it would be Kittle, because the yardage will be there. Maybe not 1,300 yards.
Maybe
but
not the most of all time.
Yeah, maybe not that, but 5 touchdowns. George Kittle can certainly improve on that area where he saw his cohorts. Kelce was at 10. Ertz was at 8. So
He also had 88 receptions. He could be up at 100. In a PPR league, that could go up.
yeah, he certainly could.
And he's got an improving quarterback situation. So
he's like a hybrid of Kelce and Ertz.
And he's also likely the cheapest. I mean,
Yeah,
he will
in a-
be. He
yeah,
will
in
be
a
the
league right
cheapest
now?
in a
Yes,
league.
yes.
So he has. You're saying he has higher upside, and he's the cheapest.
I'm
he's
saying
just
his-
the least established because Kelce and Ertz have done it for multiple
I'm
seasons.
saying his upside, like his ceiling can improve.
Yes.
I still would not say his upside is greater than Kelce or Ertz,
Okay.
though.
Okay. Are there any other tight ends that could jump into that elite tier next year?
Ooh.
That top 3 upper echelon?
That's the question that wins championships. You know, if you can get the guy before the jump in,
Spin to Kittle.
Yeah, exactly.
Spin to Kittle.
This year, Ertz 2 years ago. When you hopped on those guys, you won. And the first name that comes to mind for me is O.J. Howard. You know, he was dominating when he played. He missed a lot of the season, but he is a different – I mean, when you look at the tight ends, usually take Ertz out. Ertz is he's just an incredible talent that you didn't really see coming. But you look at Kittle and Kelce, and they are physically like combine wonders. These are guys that are bigger, stronger, and faster than all the other tight ends, and that's why they dominate. That's what O.J. Howard is. He is a physical freak even among all the freaks of the NFL.
People need to realize the one thing that Ertz and Kelce have in common was people sitting on their microphone for multiple years trying to project them as being elite. I mean, it took Ertz 2 years, 2 full seasons of disappointing fantasy owners. 4 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns, under 500 yards, 700 yards, 58 receptions, before he had these big-time years. And it took Kelsey a while, too. Remember, we were just waiting.
Yeah.
You know, Kelsey got hurt, and then we were waiting for him to Zeus out. But, so it could take some time. Howard, you're right. Howard at least is in the category of could, but it could be another year. It could be 2 more years.
Yeah, he's 6'6", ran a 4.5.
Ebron's not going to do it. Burton's not going to do it. Njoku, like you brought up, probably not going to do it. Hunter Henry, probably not going to do it, but at least he's out there. He's interesting. But no, I don't think there's somebody that just jumps out as, it's going to happen next season for me.
Agreed.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, number 5. This one is titled, Put the Team on My Back, Patrick Mahomes. Another bad one. That's
2 in a row.
Look, Kyle can find these stats.
Back trick Mahomes?
Trick Mahomes.
No, not good.
Can we hit the drum?
Yeah.
Kyle.
He is not immune from the shame of the rim shot.
No, stats are hot, titles are not. The Kansas City Chiefs running back group. This is what this means, apparently. The Kansas City Chiefs running back group. So this was Hunt for a while, and then the Williams brothers. They combined for 12 receiving touchdowns on the year. That is as many as 11 NFL teams had combined at that position. So if you took the Vikings, Texans, Broncos, Bucks, Seahawks, Titans, Packers, Lions, Bengals, Raiders, and Bills, their receiving touchdowns at the running back position, you put them all together.
They're the same.
They're the same. So if the backfield is the Damien Williams experience next season, how many total touchdowns do you see?
Ooh.
What is the high-end ceiling projection for Damien Williams? I was going to go the other way. I was going to say, what's his basement if he's the guy?
You mean, what's his floor?
His floor. Like, what's the worst that you're going to get out of him if it's his backfield? And that would be 10 total touchdowns to me. That's the worst-case scenario if it's his backfield. But a combination of on the ground and through the air, you're going to get 10.
There's too many touchdowns going around in Kansas City to not have a true single, guy who's running the backfield have 10. I agree with that. I think his floor is much lower because I don't think he's going to be the guy. Certainly not by himself. But as far as ceiling, usually when you look at a running back and they're receiving touchdowns, a really good high number is like 6. That's a lot. And so the fact that they had 12 receiving touchdowns total, this is part and parcel of my belief that Patrick Mahomes is not going to throw. Let's say next year Patrick Mahomes throws 40 touchdowns. That's awesome. That is great. That's probably leading the league or close to it. You're first or second. But that's also 10 fewer touchdowns than he threw this season. And a lot of those, I think, will come at the expense of the running back position just by the nature of what usually happens around the goal line.
Now, I know you and the Patriots have a very interesting, history right now with your bold prediction. But did you know this? Did you know that Damien Williams, before he re-signed with Miami in 2017, he visited New England? And so Belichick was recruiting Damien Williams, and he said, quote, and this just flies in the face of some things you've been saying about him. Quote, he's a good football player, smart, versatile, can do a lot of things, can run the ball, can catch the ball, can pass protect. We had a good visit with him. He was a good guy to bring in and visit and get to know. He's not surprised, is what I'm saying. Bill Belichick is not surprised.
Look, they gave him that offer.
Best coach in history?
They gave him that offer for a reason. The Patriots said, I offer nothing to you.
Because that's what they offer everybody.
But look, he's an in-division running back that was, available. It's like, hey, why don't you stop in over here? We'll take a look. We'll see what
I just wanted to how deep your head was in the Damien Williams sand. I wanted a little check. This is still in your ears.
It's V-deep. Very deep.
V-deep.
Kareem Hunt had 7 receiving touchdowns in 11 weeks. I agree with Jason that if a touchdown regression comes to Patrick Mahomes, that's the biggest place where it's going to happen. But this is what they did. This was a game plan for the Chiefs offense when they got close to the goal line, was the old shovel pass or the old tap pass. I mean, just counting as double for us.
It was kind of interesting to watch Kareem Hunt's beginning of the season, right? Where we were concerned about receptions at the running back position.
The first 3 weeks, he had 3 targets total.
Yeah.
But I mean, you also had that weird Travis Kelce week 1. I mean, Mahomes was getting used to the NFL.
Got used to it.
and he certainly did that pretty quick.
All right, number 6. It's a QB's world, and we just live in it. All right. In 2017, there were 6 quarterbacks to complete 65% or more of their passes. This stat's crazy. In 2018, there were 20 that completed 65% or more of their passes. So the question is, with completion rates higher than they've ever been, how does this affect fantasy and the importance of valuing the quarterback?
And the qualifier for that was you had to play at least 8 games.
Yeah.
So this, it's not just a guy coming in for 1 game, playing a half in relief.
He was 1 for 1.
So basically,
100%.
Jared Goff was right at the 65% mark and finished 20th in the statistic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Cam
insane.
Newton's going, Cam Newton was at 68% this year.
Yeah.
Former Cam Newton.
His career high. Yeah, I mean, this year you saw something happen in the NFL as Andy said, like the chasing the McVay style, the playing into the new rules and the short passing, involving more running backs and passing. The total of, if you take the average of all the starting quarterbacks and you look at their quarterback rating this year, their average was over 90. That's insane. That's above the career average of a ton of Hall of Famers. So, yeah, I mean, will this continue? I think it will. This is where everything's going. But does it change the value of quarterbacks in fantasy?
No.
Not at all.
Because they're all there.
Yeah, if it changes it for 2 guys and nobody else is catching on, then yeah, at that point it might change how you evaluate those 2 guys. But everyone is catching on.
Well,
Cam Newton's throwing for 68%.
Obviously, Cam Newton's throwing for 68% and put up a poor fantasy performance relative to previous years when he had a lower completion percentage.
Just the end of the year.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying it's not this one statistic, especially when spread out across 20 quarterbacks. It's just a rising water level in that one area for the quarterback position. But like you said, doesn't affect fantasy very much.
Number 5 was Derek Carr on the season. He was.
All right. Number 7, I've already renamed it. It's target time.
Oh, you renamed it?
Yeah, it's made no sense. There was
this one. I like this.
There were 10,995 rushing attempts by running backs in 2018. Okay, on average, a running back rushing attempt yielded 0.627 fantasy points.
Little more than half a point every time a running back got a carry.
Yeah, exactly. In a half-point league, a running back target was worth almost double. So just a target to the running back was worth, on average, 1.17 fantasy points per target. That's double. Basically double the value. Not getting the ball handed to you, but just having
Not even catching it.
Just having it thrown your way. And in a full PPR, it's worth 2.5 times. Okay? So this is illustrating the value of a pass-catching running back. And so guys like Austin Eckler, right, last year, we just talked about the Chargers having 2 running backs in that top 24. Austin Eckler, Theo Riddick, Nyheim Hines.
Chris Thompson,
right. James White, Kenyon Drake, maybe. Jalen Samuels for a part of the year. Knowing that value, knowing how much more valuable the target is, are there running backs that we need to look at differently for 2019? How do you make the mental adjustment on a guy like James White, who through many metrics show him as the most valuable draft pick in fantasy football this year relative to draft cost? And he's a pass-catching running back.
Yeah, it's kind of a trick question, right? Because if you're saying how do we change with this data, then I would say not at all, because this isn't surprising, right? We stat guys out in the Ultimate Draft Kit for the last several years, and we give all of the value. We know how much more valuable receptions are than carries, and so when you look at our rankings, we have that built in. In fact, this crazy stat of the fact that it was 1.56 points per target in a full PPR, that was actually down from the year prior. So I think that this is important. If you don't realize how critical, if you're out there and you're new to fantasy or you're picking this up in the offseason, you're wanting to get a head start, if you don't realize how critical pass catching is to a running back in fantasy, that's going to change everything for you.
Here's the message to me. It's that we don't need to wait as long to buy into a pass-catching running back only weapon. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Where sometimes we've wanted to see more consistent snap counts or carry counts or rotation involvement. The value of a guy like Austin Eckler, you could have, if you had made the decision to buy into some of that early, you probably would have gotten some nice weeks out of that, right? So that's the message to me, is that at any moment one of these guys can turn it on as that type of player.
Yeah. Your Duke Johnsons.
Okay. I don't know what this title means. Number 8, Day of the Dumpster, Mighty Morphin into wide receiver ones.
Now that is actually the title of the first ever Power Rangers episode.
Is it?
Yes, which
Okay.
is why.
So this is a deep one.
Yes, this one's digging deep. We will
This
we will
is
allow this to
multi-layered.
slide.
This is Mike level stuff.
Yeah, I approve.
All right. There were 12 wideouts that were drafted outside of the top 40, according to average draft position, that had stretches of at least 4 games, so a whole month, as a wide receiver one in half-point leagues. So there were guys drafted deep, 12 of them, outside the top 40 that had at least 4-game stretches where they were a wide receiver one. These guys are Robbie Anderson. Okay, he had a 4-week span. Mike Williams, Calvin Ridley, DJ Moore, Kenny Golladay, Tyler Lockett, Deshaun Jackson, Tyrell Williams, free agent, Albert Wilson, Dante Pettis, Adam Humphries, and Tyler Boyd. All of those receivers were outside the top 40 in draft position. All of those receivers had 4-week spans of being a wide receiver one.
At least 4 weeks. I mean, in the case of some, take Tyler Boyd, it was pretty much all season. From week 2 through 15, he was a wide receiver one.
So, is there a name or two that jumps out from that list that you either played a lot in your roster that you can answer the question, do they feel like a wide receiver one to you? And are there some of these guys that you project forward, both in draft position but also in value, that you think will be there next year?
Yeah, the guy that I would talk about would be Dante Pettis. I don't think I win our Dynasty League championship if it wasn't for Pettis. I started him through that entire stretch, and it was a good time to have your double flex scoring as a wide receiver one. I think he's got the opportunity to step in. It's not guaranteed that he's going to be the wide receiver one.
Right.
But there is an opportunity that he is Garoppolo's wide receiver one. I loved him coming out. He has a lot of film from college of just beating guys in open field, and then that translated, and he did it in the NFL. So if you want to take a guy and say, okay, who could really continue the trend, and look when he did it. It was the end of the year. It was weeks 12 through 15, then he got injured at the very end. He came into his own, so he's the guy that I will project going forward significantly higher than obviously where he was last year.
Well, he's interesting.
This whole list
he doesn't get
interesting.
close to me on wide receiver one potential the way that Kenny Golladay does, and the way that I would look at probably Mike Williams. I think Mike Williams and Kenny Golladay, have a higher potential of being a wide receiver one in fantasy than Dante Pettis, but he is on the interesting list, no doubt. Mike, do you have a name or two, or do you agree or disagree on those guys?
I agree with the thought process that both Kenny Golladay and Mike Williams feel like wide receiver ones far more than Dante Pettis. I mean, and that's just a natural inclination of stature. Pettis is a smaller guy. Kenny Golladay and Mike Williams are both prototypical wide
6'3".
They're big wide receivers. But both of those guys have alpha level players on their team. Mike Williams has Keenan Allen. Kenny Golladay has Marvin Jones. Dante Pettis doesn't have that. Pierre Garçon is going to be back. We know that he will be back just contractually. I don't know if he'll be on the field very much, but he's at least going to be on the team, and I would take Pettis over Garçon.
I would be talking about Marquise Goodwin a lot more than I'd be talking
about.
Sure,
then that was the next one.
He was paid to come and play a heavy role.
Right, but
and then Kittle,
can they count
George
on him?
Kittle.
Yeah, but Hunter Henry for Mike Williams. My point was simply that Pettis he doesn't feel like the one, but his path to being the main guy on his team and they could be a very surprising offense next year. Pettis is going to be a very sneaky pick.
I would say that everybody on the list that you read, Andy,
this is a great list.
Outside of Deshaun Jackson and Albert Wilson, I really like the entire list. I will target these guys in next year's draft because they showed in a stretch of games that they have the potential to significantly help my fantasy team, and
I'll probably cut Adam Humphries off that list.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's sad.
Yeah.
Well,
because
he's a free agent.
Yeah, product of injuries at the tight end position.
Yeah,
too.
I get it, but he's pronounced as an Humphries.
You just want
it definitely is. I actually think that Albert Wilson's intriguing. At least, he was paid to be a strong part of this offense. It's
changing head coaches, changing offensive situations,
changing quarterback.
Yeah,
could he get a massive upgrade at the quarterback position in Miami? It's at least inside the realm of possibilities now.
All right, number 9, Jay Grizz says, stream your defenses.
Wow.
Yeah, listen to this.
Really?
Yeah. The Bears were the number 1 fantasy defense, leading the league in defense and special teams touchdowns.
That's why this is the name of this hot stat is blowing my mind right now.
So they were number 1, fewest points allowed. All of that being said about how dominating Chicago was, they only beat the number 2 defense by 2 fantasy points per game, and the number 7 through 12 defenses were only 4 points per game behind. In fact, over the last 10 seasons, only one overall number 1 fantasy defense went on to finish in the top 5 the next year. So that's over the last 10 years. You only had one top 5 repeat, the 2015-2016 Cardinals.
I think the Bears will do it.
I think the Bears will do it as well.
I think the Bears will still probably be overdrafted.
I agree with that too.
Yeah, that's a fact. So, we talk about it every year, but is streaming defenses the way to go? Yeah, it is. It is the way to go. You cannot invest high draft capital on a position that rarely repeats in multiple years. Turnover. It's not just turnover it's really not even about that. It's just about things like injury, offensive performance. The variables surrounding a defense there are so many of them. If you lose 1 or 2 players on defense,
if Khalil Mack misses any
goes
time
down
for Chicago, then they'll still be fine.
But your draft pick is definitely
torched.
not worth it.
Yeah, and you've got matchup problems. Whenever you've got a defense, even your great defense, are you going to start that defense against Kansas City and Pat Mahomes? Or
right.
That you probably would make a mistake to do that more often than not. So streaming defenses, meaning playing different defenses off the waiver wire and not committing to one the whole time, is you'll outscore oftentimes the number 1 scoring defense on the year because you're playing nothing but good matchups. Basically, you're playing defenses, against the Bills every week or whoever.
Pre-Josh Allen dominance.
Allen
Yeah.
Josh Stallion.
Number 10. This one's titled, You Get a Touchdown, and You Get a Touchdown,
Look
and
under
You
your
Get a
chairs.
Touchdown. In 2017.
Look under your chairs.
Look under your chairs.
You've got a touchdown.
There could be a touchdown under your chair. In 2017, there were 738 quarterback passing touchdowns. Last year, there were 834, almost 100 more passing touchdowns. Pat Mahomes led the way with 50. Andrew Luck, 39. Matt Ryan, 35. Russell Wilson, 35. You had 9 at 30 or above. So, based on that statistic, if you believe that that number is a little high compared to what you'd expect, if there's a surplus there, who are some quarterbacks due for regression?
I don't believe that there is a surplus there. I think that the crazy gap is more indicative of 2017, where Mike brought up earlier how low it was. Now we talked earlier. Is it going to regress a little bit? Yeah, probably. And I would say the number one regression candidate, I would still put Pat Mahomes there. And that's to say he finishes number one in passing touchdowns just with 10 fewer and still is great. But, I look at most of the list.
Still would be number one with 10 fewer, like you said.
Exactly. If he had 10 fewer touchdowns, he would rank one. So I think most of the guys on the list that threw near 30 are going to repeat. And I see some guys that didn't, who definitely could have. I mean, think about Baker Mayfield. He only threw 27 touchdowns. Yeah. He only played, 14 games?
I'd be concerned. The one that jumps out to me is Russell Wilson, because you saw the transition last year, the way they ran the offense, the way that he didn't run the ball as much. He only threw for 3,400 yards, but he had an 8.2 touchdown percentage, which meant he threw 35 touchdowns. That made his entire fantasy season.
Yeah, that's fair.
So if you take, he threw for 1,500 fewer yards than Patrick Mahomes. So that would be the one that jumps out to me.
You could throw in
as potential regression.
Kirk Cousins. He just barely got to 30, and you saw the change that happened when they changed their offensive coordinator. Similar to Russell Wilson, they want to shift it away from the passing game, be a more, slow the game down, wind the clock, run the ball, and so around the goal line, he might have a few more opportunities that he had this last year that go away.
I would say Phillip Rivers.
Sure.
Phillip Rivers came through with a great year, but much like Russell Wilson, overperformed. His touchdown percentage was at 6.3%, and it's not that he can't throw 32 touchdowns. I mean, he's done that before. But his passing attempts came way down, and the touchdowns still stayed up there. So I think if those are the attempts we're going to see from Rivers, I would expect him to be more in that 27-28 range.
Yeah, I can totally get that. And if those three guys all fall below 30,
someone else will replace it.
Baker Mayfield, Deshaun Watson, Aaron Rodgers, Cam Newton. Yeah. Those guys should be at that 30 number, and they weren't this year.
Yeah, I would expect Matthew Stafford to have a much better touchdown performance next season. He lost one of his best weapons midway through the season. Galladay getting established. Marvin Jones was hurt as well, so he didn't have a lot of guys to throw to. No Kerryon Johnson, and so his touchdown percentage was way down. But I could see him getting back to 30 very easily. And, obviously Wentz and Foles, neither of them were in that category of 30 and above, and assuming one gets to play the whole year, that should happen in Philadelphia as well. So that is it for the top 10 shocking stats of 2018 and some of their fantasy football implications. Any final thoughts from you, gentlemen? Oh, no. Neither of you pushed the mute button.
Oh, whoops.
Wait, Brooks, did you hear that?
Could you guys hear that? Yeah.
My bad.
Pristine deal of the day.
All right. Head over to pristineauction.com. Let them know the Fantasy Footballers sent you today's pristine deal of the day.
It is not the Devontae Adams signed jersey that went for $62 yesterday.
Are you going to bring it up?
I'm going to bring it up.
Yeah.
Okay, because this is great. I mean, look, if you got a Devontae Adams signed Packers jersey for only $62, JSA certified, congratulations, Pristine Auction. We know it's an amazing place. Mike got something for me. He just won yesterday.
Something for you?
I got Jason a little.
Well, it's for the office,
but it's
for
for
the studio,
Jason.
but it's for me.
Jason. Okay.
He got me a Dante Pettis signed jersey.
Oh gosh.
$29.
What?
Stealing it over there.
For real?
That is 100% real.
Like a 49er jersey?
Yes.
Not like a high school collegiate.
Look, you gotta check him out.
This is why I keep telling people, you jump on there every single day. It's an auction format.
Make a free account.
And sometimes things slip through the cracks.
And make sure that when you sign up, you let them know you found out about them for the fantasy football.
Was that cheaper than your lunch today?
Yes. Yes, lunch was more expensive.
Oh, I'm going to have to figure out that story very soon. Thank you for listening into the show. Don't forget to check out ultimatedraftkit.com if you want to get in on that pre-order action and that contest. And we will be back with you soon.
See you next time. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.